All right, back to the campaign.
Yeah.
Since June, Donald Trump has sparked controversy after controversy while leading the Republican race for president.
In the latest CBS News, New York Times poll out today, the billionaire is far out in front with 35% of support. At times, it may appear that the frontrunner's campaign is chaotic. But as the Washington Post reports, Trump's approach is actually disciplined and methodical. Yeah. Reporter Amber Phillips, who's been researching Trump's tweets for the Post, joins us from Washington, D.C. Amber, thanks for being here.
Hi. Yeah, I got to read all 6,000 plus of them that he sent since
6,000.
Since he started running for president, right? I mean, and you guys did a lot of research into his attack, and the article describes a pattern of experimentation. So give us a sense of what some of those are.
Yeah, so the one thing we notice is Donald Trump is totally fearless in throwing out messages and seeing whether they stick with his supporters. One example of something he found that didn't quite work was him making a joke about his Democratic opponent, Senator Bernie Sanders, who had hernia surgery. And he mentioned it in a tweet and in a rally, made a joke, oh, he's carrying all his tax plans around, it got too heavy. People didn't really laugh, they didn't really retweet it. Donald Trump, to his credit, just totally dropped it and moved on to something else. Right now, he talks a lot about immigration, of course, which is a signature issue, and criticizing Democrats for not calling ISIS a radical Islamist. And that's where he's so methodical. He will not let up on these messages that he found resonates with his supporters, especially on Twitter.
You know, Amber, it appears that Donald Trump ad-libs quite a bit. He's great at that and does come up with some memorable lines. But if you really watch him avidly, you could notice that he tends to say the same things over and over again. But how does this whole off-the-cuff sort of personality favor him?
Yeah, it fits him perfectly. And it just is him. That's what his campaign manager told me this summer. He said, I don't try and tell Donald Trump what to say. He just says it. And his, 95-minute speeches and rallies and tweets at all hours of the day is just quintessentially Donald Trump. And then he's just throwing things out there to see what sticks. But when you get him on Saturday Night Live or his campaign sits him down to film an Instagram video where he's clearly reading lines, it's a totally different, almost wooden Donald Trump. And so he sort of built up this following just by sort of waving out there what he wants to say. And he's really, really good at figuring out the right thing to say that resonates with his base.
Well, it's interesting also, Amber, you guys, in your analysis of his tweets, you note that the majority of his tweets are self-promotion. Donald Trump is great. Donald Trump is up huge in the polls. Donald Trump, is smarter than everybody else. And a lot of them...
It talks about it in the third person?
Yeah, even when he was reading his new policy of banning all Muslims, he read it as, Donald J. Trump, so he talks about himself in the third person. And the other percentage is much smaller percentage, but still significant number of tweets are attacks against reporters, attacks against other people running for the presidency, but also people who are not even registering in the polls. He goes after Bobby Jindal, who's now since dropped out, but I mean, he was barely at 1%, and he attacks Bobby Jindal.
Yeah, exactly. Donald Trump, I think, is just cannot resist going after someone who says something negative about him. He's sent out a recent tweet attacking an individual political reporter for writing a story that had a clear end result that was negative for Donald Trump. Well, at the same time, he's just shameless, frankly, in bragging about himself. He mentioned recently he's releasing his medical records and they would show perfection, were his exact words. But, after doing that analysis of all 6,000 plus tweets, I was surprised to see that just 11% or so were attacks or insults. It's definitely, a small part of what he says, but it resonates so much, and it's so much of what we think of who Donald Trump is.
And maybe those are the most retweeted.
Yeah, we've seen as well, exactly. And it's, he has, within those attacks and insults, almost 1 million retweets, whereas, the whole 6,000 plus tweets, he gets about 3.5 million retweets total. So I think you're right that those are just echoing further and further outside Donald Trump's Twitter account.
And the other thing you guys point out in your piece, which is fantastic, I encourage anybody to go to the Washington Post website and look at it, is that he is relentless in the amount of times he tweets in a given day. On one day in particular, October 31st, he tweeted 59 times. We always talk, we don't know, because we, even as reporters, as people who are covering the news, we're very busy. If we're able to get out one tweet, we feel triumphant. He's out there tweeting 59 times a day, and that doesn't even count his Instagram account.
Yeah, exactly. At all hours of the day, too, we found. And that's, frankly, what I'm so impressed about at Donald Trump's Twitter game is he's just sticks with it so much. And I think he really thrives off the validation that he gets from this community he's created of Twitter supporters who increasingly just love him, frankly. That's according to everything that Donald Trump retweets. While at the same time, it's become this bigger and bigger megaphone for him. Anything negative he retweets about, the Wall Street Journal or Politico or CBS or another candidate makes news, frankly. And so I think the more it works for him, the more he sticks with it.
Amber, on a serious note, I mean, when you guys look at his social media campaign vis-a-vis President Obama back in 2008, which he was sort of the benchmark at that time for engaging with younger people using social media, this is clearly a game changer. And I wonder, though, when you analyze his tweets, are you able to see that he's actually testing? In other words, he doesn't need a lot of market research. He can use Twitter as a way to test his message. He attacks somebody, or he says something that's bombastic. It sticks. People retweet it, and that becomes, the next thing you know, he's talking about it at a rally.
And he also saves money on campaign.
For sure.
Well, and that fact is supported by the campaign finance numbers. Donald Trump has spent a lot less than his other opponents. Not that he needed to. He'll tell you he's very rich and he can spend all the money he wants. He hasn't needed to at all, and Twitter's a big reason for the points you make.
Amber Phillips in Washington, thank you so much. That was really, really great. And as I said, people should go and check out this article. It's really cool.
It's a good read.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Amber.